Okay. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
My name is Tim Stevenson. Now, I started a little company a few years ago. I call it Help for Seniors, WNY. My mom and dad are 88 and 89. My mom fell down at Art Park and broke her hip in 2005. So, I've got mom with a walker, dad's taking care of her at home. So when we started looking for help, I was living it. And then my mom came down with a memory impairment. Now she asked the same question 6 times, 15 minutes. What day is it? 20 times a day. So I got into that, and neurologists and doctors that specialize in that. One of the things that I found was a problem was senior transportation. You know?
It is.
I was lucky. Before my mom started getting the memory that we were really aware of, I was running late from work, and I said, gee, Mom, can you go up to Starpoint School and pick up the kids? So she got about halfway up to Starpoint, and then she wasn't sure where she was going, and then 3 hours later she comes home without the kids, and she said, I'm not comfortable driving anymore. I'm done. So, senior transportation is a problem. Why do people not want to drive? You know, driving is independence. Trying to take somebody's keys away, why would I want to do that? I get to go to the store, I get to go to the hairdresser, I do whatever I want. I go out with my friends. Well, there's some things that I found that it generally comes back to why driving might not be so appropriate. I do a lot of helping people find safe places to live. If the house gets too much with the grass and the snow, and you'd like to move into a nice place like this, I pick people up and take people for tours, and we pick out a place. I help people with the move, and usually when they move in, sometimes they still drive, sometimes they don't. If they don't, I help, like with Lois. I take Lois to the nails and to a hairdresser when she needs it. And it's just a helpful thing. You can't stop driving without having options. Everybody's still got to go. Everybody's still got to go get their hair done, go to doctor's appointments. Sometimes if you can drive, you just don't feel like it. Like my dad has a problem with his eye, and he goes to the VA and gets drops. But for 3 hours after, his pupils are dilated and driving isn't comfortable. So he can still drive, he's a good driver. He's got a big Cadillac, but he doesn't feel comfortable with that. So I help him with that. Gasoline is $4 a gallon again. You know? I fill a tank. I've got a Ford Crown Victoria, 20-gallon tank, $4 a gallon. It cost me $80 to fill a tank. Insurance. Older drivers have some situations that might start occurring. Night driving. Sometimes you can't see as good at night. If you put a couple of scrapes in the side of the car and you make an insurance claim, the rates start tacking up. If you crash into a building or another car and there's liability involved, the insurance goes up. It's not uncommon for insurance for a driver that's over 65 that had a couple of accidents to be $100 a month. So you get a car payment, insurance payment, $4 a gallon, you're starting to run up some expenses. So sometimes maybe just backing off and doing a little pre-planning makes more sense. I'm probably in the car 6 hours a day driving around. Do you ever see these teenagers with the wild green colored cars with the stupid wheels that are really thin and they stick way up and they got those stupid front can mufflers and they're whipping in and out of traffic? Or these kids on those plastic fantastic motorcycles? It's nerve-wracking dealing with that. If you got to go from here to ECMC and you're taking the 290 and the 33 and traffic is this far apart and everybody's going 70 miles an hour, that's a nervous situation, especially at rush hour. So there's some reasons why maybe backing off driving would be a good idea. Now, everybody knows people who they've lived with for a while and they might not have been great drivers to start with, but as they get older, they start losing the ability to turn around and look behind them, getting the, they can't do this kind of stuff. So, how do you know when you're ready to turn in the keys? Well, a lot of times people feel it. There are, to my knowledge, 4 driver evaluation programs that are just available to people who ask. ECMC's got one. The brochure for the ECMC driver evaluation program. Here's one for Erie County, Older Drivers Family Assistance Help Network. The AAA has got a guy that you can go and talk to, have a road test, they can evaluate. Over at DeGraff Hospital, they've got a geriatric care unit that's in there with some specialist doctors. They've got a guy who works out of DeGraff. He splits his time between DeGraff and Rochester, and he evaluates senior drivers, and that's his job. And he goes through a checklist, and he makes recommendations. If you're ready, that's easy. If you're trying to persuade someone else who doesn't want to, but you know they really shouldn't drive, frequently the primary doctors or the neurologists say, talk to me, I'll get involved. A doctor saying that really you should hang up the keys is a little bit more positive than, gee, Mom, you know, I'm sick of this. Why don't you give me your keys? Especially with kids. I got kids, I know. They know everything, and I never know anything. So sometimes when they say, oh, you got to do what I do, there's some resentment. So there are some reasons why people might want to consider not driving. Now, I've got some notes here. As you get older, the eyes don't adjust to the darkness and the glare from the oncoming traffic. It just tends to be a situation with older drivers. Reaction time tends to be a little bit slower. Dr. Gavarino is the gerontologist in Buffalo. He's the guy that everybody talks to. He's the high-priced gun. He gives a speech at Suburban Hospital a couple of times a year about the physical effects. One of the things that older drivers run into is a problem with oncoming traffic judgment. When you're younger, you seem to be able to figure out how long it's going to take before the cars that are approaching you are going to pass by, like if you're going to be making a left turn or something. And that just tends to not be quite as sharp as you get older. And there's a lot of accidents for drivers turning in front of somebody a little too early, and that's just not good. Also with older drivers, you get into situations where maybe your hip has given you a problem and you're taking pain medication. The pain medication can really throw off your judgment as how fast things are going and your reaction time. Also, I've got a lady, a friend of mine, Iris. She had a hip operation and it kept popping out. If she exceeds her range of motion, it dislocates. Her doctor says, I don't want you out in some parking lot when your hip pops out. And this happened to her at the driveway of her house. She got out of her car, she said, oh, there's something on the passenger seat. She got in, she reached over, dislocated the hip, had to call the paramedics. So, there are several reasons why, even though nobody wants to give up driving, maybe looking for alternatives is a good idea. So, who knows the cheapest way to get around? Okay, the cheapest way to get around is to have a friend who drives and mooch off of them. You don't have to pay for your car, you don't have to pay for your gas, you don't have to pay for the insurance. That's great when you have friends driving. That's what everybody did in high school. Hey, that guy's kind of cute. He's got a car. Hey.
But that doesn't mean everybody, because
That doesn't mean everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, when I ask them, I tell them I'll pay you, because I don't believe in that. I think you should do that.
Right. Now, if you got a daughter, a son, somebody local who's willing to say, yeah, no problem, Mom, I don't work all day, I'm just waiting for you to call me up so we can drive around and have a great time. That's great. That doesn't happen most of the time. So, there are several ways. Okay. Now, one of the of the things that just came up, I'm just going to dwell on just a tiny bit because it's a new thing that I've been seeing, is these little electric scooters. Have you seen some of these things? They got 3 or sometimes they got the 4 wheels and a car seat, and you can plug them in and they go for hours. I've been seeing them over at Tops and Wegmans. The guys can go from here down to Tops, over to Wegmans, shop around for an hour or 2, have enough juice to come back here, still drive around. There's a guy, Charlie, over in Amberley. He got one on Craigslist for $600. It might seem like a lot, but it's way cheaper than a car. To fill it up, you just plug it in the wall.
I wouldn't want to cross Niagara Falls Boulevard with one of those.
Some of those things go surprisingly fast. They go like 15 miles an hour.
It isn't bad. I think drivers are out to get you.
You know, you get that. So, anyway, besides the electric scooters, that's just a thing. A lot of times the insurance companies will pick that up. A lot of times you can pick them up used because the person that gets them uses them for a year or 2, but sometimes people don't last forever and the scooters last longer. So I've just been seeing that, and for short hops from here to Wilson Farms, stuff like that, you know, that might be an option. Delivery, especially for food, for Wegmans. I talk to Wegmans, I buy a lot of lunches for a neurologist's office. I leave a lot of brochures, tell them that people that are looking for some help, you know, I'm the guy. But I was over at Wegmans today. They said, if you go to Wegmans, or even just call up Wegmans, they'll do delivery. They've got a delivery service. If you get 4 people, 3 people, they like to have orders over $100, and the cost for that is $27.
Oh.
So if you get 3 people putting in $35 a piece worth of groceries, tack on an extra $10, and you can just have them drop it off. When I was a bachelor going to college, I had a bottle of water and a bottle of mustard in my refrigerator. And I had 10 different menus taped to the outside of the refrigerator from all the takeout places around my house. Oh, what do we feel like for dinner? I don't know, let's go in the kitchen. We look on the thing, and we call up the guy, and we say, "Moo Goo Guy pan for 2, and deliver it to 122. But the problem with that is, a lot of times going shopping is a fun thing to do. It's a social thing. You go out with your friends, and you actually want to go around and look at the stuff in Rite Aid and the dollar store and Walmart, and actually go in there. So, I found that there's public and private transportation. The main public thing that everybody knows about is the metro. The metro is a metro. If you're okay with stairs, they got 3 stairs to climb up, they got a schedule that they run on, and you're at their schedule. As seniors, you'll probably all qualify for senior discount. You can either call up or have them send out a form or do it on the computer, and you can get really reasonable rates for senior bus passes. Problem with bus passes is you run on the bus's route at the bus's time. They have a thing called paratransit. If you have a scheduled, I get my hair done every second Thursday, and I want you to pick me up at Brighton, drop me off on Delaware, and bring me back. I've seen ladies with walkers, with wheelchairs. They come from assisted livings, they come from nursing homes. Paratransit guy will pick them up, drop them off, come back for them. Again, they like to have a week notice, at least, and then you're working with their schedule, and maybe the guy's there in 10 minutes, and maybe he's there in an hour and a half, and that's public transportation.
And how much is that paratransit?
Not sure exactly what the rates are, but it's way discounted rates. I can get that for you. That's not my thing.
Okay.
I know about that as being a thing.
They don't pick you up in your home. You have to go to the bus stop, I believe.
Now with the paratransit, they'll pick you up not in your home, but in front of your home. I used to have a girl, Angela. She had a wheelchair. She had like polio or something, so her legs were little tiny legs, and she used the paratransit every day. It would pick her up in my apartment in North Tonawanda and take her to her sheltered workshop place, and then the paratransit would come at the end of the day, and she'd wheel off the thing. They had the wheelchair lift, and that was a regular kind of a deal. A lot of times you don't do regular kind of a deal. Oh, it's a nice day. We can go out to dinner. We want to go to lunch. We feel like the botanical gardens today. It's a nice day. Well, the paratransit isn't so cool with that kind of stuff. They want more advanced warning. They like regular schedules, and that doesn't work out all the time. How about the senior vans? Okay.
Chicken that.
Amherst has got a senior van. Tonawanda's got a senior van. Erie County's got a senior van. Now, we're in Tonawanda, so this is a pretty good deal. You can call those guys up. They like a week advance if they can get it. And they'll take people anywhere in the town that they want to go. And it's a pretty reasonable rate. It's $4 or $7 or something. The problem with those guys is they stop at like 3:30. If you want to go see your friend at
And they don't work on the weekend.
yeah, and they don't do weekends. The one from Amherst doesn't come into Tonawanda. If you want to go from here to the Amherst Senior Center, well, we don't go there. That's the next town over. The Tonawanda Senior Center, or Senior Van, will take people from Tonawanda out to SJ with all those doctors over there, and then pick you up and bring you back. But the Amherst van won't pick up seniors in Tonawanda and bring them over to SJ and then bring them back to Tonawanda.
Don't they also give preference to people that have doctor appointments? So if you have a scheduled shopping trip and now they have somebody that needs a doctor appointment, you end up getting bumped because it's not.
Doctor's appointments are priority with those guys.
So you can run out of groceries and you're out of luck because you don't have a doctor appointment.
Sometimes they'll have like a scheduled, oh, in a week from Thursday we're doing a Rite Aid trip and sign up. But then you just get it for whatever their schedule is too.
They also charge, I don't know what Amherst does, but I know Tonawanda. If you cross the boulevard, it's $10 going and $10 coming back. It's $20.
Now, Amherst likes you to sign up for a $400 membership or have a property sign up for a $400 membership. When I first got into this, my friend Iris wanted to go from Mill Street to Elmwood on Saturday to get her hair, back to Mill Street. Oh yeah, we take anybody, anywhere, anytime. Except we don't do weekends, and we don't go out of the town, and we don't pick up at that building because they haven't given us the $400 a year. Okay, well that's not anyone, anytime, anywhere. There's one called Rural Transit Service. That's got money from HUD. And those guys say, oh yeah, we'll take people to doctor's visits, South Towns, Wheatfield, different places. I've heard of them, I've talked to the drivers. It seems reasonable. What they do, they get into the doctor's visit specialty. If you want to just go shopping, not so much. We Care. Have you ever heard of the We Care vans? They're running around. Their goal is to be there within an hour of when they're supposed to pick you up. That's their goal. If they're there within 2, 3, 4 hours, well, we skipped our goal. You want to wait an hour on a good day. I don't want my mom waiting an hour on a good day. My mom's 88. She's frail. She's not sitting in some cold waiting room for an hour or 3 hours waiting for this thing to pick her up. Oh yeah, well we'll pick her up, but we got to go to Orchard Park first.
That's the trouble.
That's
Our
the
children
trouble.
believe that it's so easy to do for these things, but they don't stop and think all the stuff in between.
Anything is easy to do if you don't have to do it. When it comes right down to it, that's what got me into it, because I actually had to do it. And I found out that all these places are getting hooks. Okay, I found that medical vans, there's a couple of specialized medical vans, like veterans that go to the Veterans Administration. The DAV van. They'll pick up veterans in Erie County and take them to the VA for a medical appointment and bring them home. And they're not so much, oh, you're in Amherst and that's on Bailey. They'll do that. And it's pretty reasonable. I don't know if it's rare, if it's $2 or something, but it's surprisingly reasonable.
Yeah, but it's only for VA.
It's only for VA. Now, I was up at Niagara Falls Hospital, and they got one called Care Express, the Care Express van. It's the same thing. Doctor's office, priority and not so much the shopping. We stop at 4. You get an appointment before 4. It might be worth, just when you're at places that you want to go to repetitively, like doctors, just to ask, is there a van service that's hooked up here? So the thing that I found with the van services, my mom fell down and broke her femur. She's not climbing in the van. She's not climbing out of the van. She doesn't have muscular strength. She's not climbing up 4 steps. She'll fall out if she falls out of the van. So the next option would be private transportation. Now, there's a couple of cab companies. Yellow Cab is Kenmore Cab. They're the same company. They work out of the same place. They just have 2 names. They've got a debit card. That's kind of neat. If you've got your daughter or son helping you pay for your transportation, he can call up, go online, say, send my mom a debit card. It's a yellow credit card. And he can put money on it, and you don't have to pay the cab guy. You just show him the card, put a $2 tip on it, he swipes it, you keep your cash. It's kind of a neat concept. Depends on where you are. I had a job where I was picking up Frank at Amberley out in Amherst and taking him to see his wife in rehab at Brothers of Mercy at 2 in the afternoon, bringing him back at 7 at night. I couldn't pick him up one day because I had something to do, so he called the Kenmore Cab, and Kenmore Cab took from 2:15 to 4 o'clock to pick him up at Amberley, to get him out there. That was a long time. He's in Amherst. If you call in areas where the cabs are, he's closer to Airport Cab. Airport Cab will pick him up in 15 or 20 minutes. If you call out to Kenmore, that's farther. It's $4 a gallon that they're thinking about. Keeping a little awareness of where you're going and where the cab companies are. The closer ones are better. Now, I've also found that sometimes people need wheelchair service. What's the most expensive way to get a wheelchair? Any of the ambulance companies. Rural Metro, they start at $125, $150 just for them to get out of the driveway. I think that's ridiculous. You guys are probably all way richer than I am, so I'm probably in the minority. But I think that's outrageous. When Iris broke her hip or got dislocated, she lives 5 blocks away from Suburban. It's $150 to get the ambulance to bring her back. No. Originally, your daughter got her one of these debit cards from Yellow Cab, and that's much better. That's a cab rate instead of an ambulance rate. I've got a guy, well, I don't have a guy, but there's a guy named Paul that works at Liberty Cab, and he's got a wheelchair van, and he charges cab rates. I had to bring my friend Erna from Delaware, like Delaware North, over to her doctor at Sisters Hospital. Wheelchair, Paul charges $22. Bring her back, much better. She's not getting in and out of the car with the wheelchair. There's a place called Union Transport that does wheelchairs up on Lockport. So if you need wheelchair service, calling cab companies and ask if that's available is way less expensive than calling an ambulance. Now, those guys are what they are. When you think about what is the cheapest ride I can get, you got to remember that minimum wage nowadays is $8 an hour. Guys that pick up stuff off the ground are $8 an hour, and gasoline's $4 a gallon. So, unless you're getting on somebody else's schedule and you're okay with that, you can't expect to pay nothing for transportation. But if you're not driving and you're not paying car payment, you're not paying $100 a month insurance, you're not paying $4 a gallon, maybe throwing $25, $30 a couple of times a month might not be so bad to get you where you want to go, when you want to go there. Now, I have a thing called senior transportation valet. I found that some of the limo services sort of do what I do. They have a guy who's nicely dressed, and he drives a nice big car. I like cars. Vans, no. These tall, stupid SUVs, you know, the 4-wheel drive deals that you gotta like climb up into, no, that's not my thing. Most of the cab companies, like the Lincoln Town Cars, Ford Crown Victorias, the cab style things. Guy. Right here. Magic Mess, request bill. Nice guy, retired guy. There's a couple of guys like me that are sort of similar to me. They'll give you the personalized service in a limo. Now the thing with limos is they sound expensive. Like getting a private guy to come over to your house and pick you up. The thing with limo services is they like to do weddings and proms and evening
There would
things.
be more money too for gasoline, wouldn't it? Big car like that.
They have these cars, they do a lot of night jobs where they make a lot of money. During the day, when you guys want to go out to places, a lot of times the limos are just sitting there. If you talk to them and say, I've got 2, 3, 4 ladies who want to go shopping, give me an off hours rate. They're willing to talk. Instead of having their limo just sit here parked, if they can get 4 of you together, give you a cut rate so everybody gets to pay a little less, and their thing is moving, it's making money for them. If it's sitting in the parking lot at 11 to 2 in the afternoon, they're not making money. So you'd be surprised. A lot of these guys are entrepreneurs. They've got insurance, they've got car payments, they've got staff. You know, that's not our regular time. We don't have anything going on. We got a guy who's not working. We'll send it over at 11. So it's worth asking. Now, what I do is I help people find senior living, and once they're in, I drive them around. My thing is, the classic example of what I do is I helped Iris find an assisted living place. I helped her with the move, and now her daughter lives in New Mexico. So she says, take my mom, pick her up at Brompton. She's got the walker, she's got the oxygen bottle. Bring her over to Elmwood. Have Joe cut her hair the same as everybody else gets their hair cut. Bring her to lunch, bring her home. And she's a steady customer for me. I take her to Dr. Gossi for her pain medication. I take her to Dr. Simmons for her physical. Send her daughter a bill once a month. Stuff like that, regular rates. I'm the guy. I can talk to you about what do you want. Like when I was bringing Frank from Amberley to Brothers of Mercy at 2 and picking him up at 7 and bringing him home, that's a 15-minute ride. 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. The cab was charging him $27 a trip. I said, Frank, you're a nice guy. That's just too expensive. I said, how's 15 bucks a shot? It's $1 a minute, and it's still half price for what you're doing. I'll do $30 round trip. And he was a nice regular guy. So stuff like that, people like me can work with. I've got a commercial license. For my midlife crisis, I learned how to drive a school bus, and then I was a Trailways driver for doing the Buffalo to New York City run, and then come home. So I've got a school bus license, Class B with passenger certification. I've got a $1 million, $2 million insurance blanket. My mom isn't very steady, so I'm a good catcher. Nobody falls with me. Falls are bad. I specialize in walkers. I specialize in oxygen tanks. I've taken people to the hairdresser, the doctor. Something I do is a supervised doctor visit. A lot of the people I work with, their mom's getting the memory, but they're doctors, lawyers, teachers. I gotta be at court, I gotta be at school, I gotta be at the hospital. Pick up my mom at 11, bring her to the doctor, make sure she doesn't fall down, sit with the doctor, see what kind of pain medication she's doing, see what her lung capacity test is, bring her home, make sure she's got her coat off and she's in her chair, let me know what happened because she can't remember. So that's one of my specialties. I've taken people to Toronto. I did like 6 Toronto trips in the past couple of months. My daughter's getting married. Bring me to Toronto Friday. I'm hanging out for the wedding. Bring me back on Monday. My daughter lives northeast of Toronto. Bring me halfway up to Brampton. They'll pick me up. They won't have to cross the border. Bring them back. My lawyer said, would you take my mom to Florida? I'm not comfortable with the flight, with the transfer in Charlotte. She's got balance issues. She's got memory issues. So, picked up her mom, met her at the airport, put her on the wheelchair. We need wheelchair service for me and Ruth. We're going to Florida. helped her with the transfer. If you ever need to travel on the airplane, ask for a wheelchair. It's free. It's the greatest trick ever. If you get a wheelchair, if you need it or not, they're going to bring you to the front of the line. They're going to board you first. You get your choice of seat in the entire plane. They're going to let you get out first. They're going to have a wheelchair waiting for you. They'll wheel you through to your transfer. They'll put you on it first again. They'll get you off. It's the way to go. It's the biggest trick ever. And
Well, that's valet service too.
it's great.
Because I already did it in Christmas.
It's great. And it's free. It's just included. You just request it. So, there's a lot of different ways to get around. It's kind of a shameless plug for me. But, you know, that's okay. So, okay. So that's a 20-minute talk in 31 minutes. Okay, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, we just would like to know how much it is. You didn't get that far.
With me, I'm the guy. You know, what do you want? I live like 10 minutes down the street here. I just live behind one ways off the Golden Extension.
What are your fees?
You know,
Give us a
where
ballpark.
do you want to go?
Say, we want to go out to the Boulevard Mall
Okay.
and stay maybe 3 hours.
Do you want me to
2
walk around
hours.
with you while you're shopping? Or do you want me to just drop you off?
I can still walk. So, and you'll come back and get us, say, in 4 hours.
Okay. What, that's maybe
5 minutes.
15 minutes round trip? I don't know. How's 50 bucks sound?
How much?
How's 15 sound?
50?
Is that good?
Is that
50 or 15?
15. And
Is it
how,
round trip or what?
Yeah.
how many can you
7 minutes
take?
there, 7 minutes back, so that's $1 a minute.
And how much would it be if you went to Wegmans or Tops on Alberta?
Same.
Same thing. Do you want me to walk around and shop with you? Like,
No.
I've got a lady, Nettie. She lives over at the tower at Weinberg, and she's 94 this year. And I took her shopping all last year. She's got the walker. She's a 93-year-old lady. She gets the little cart, and she like, but she can't reach the stuff on the top shelf. She can't hear. She likes the kosher department, but she can't talk to the lady because she can't hear, and there's so much noise going around. So with Nettie, I just walk around. That's a supervised thing. Nettie doesn't have a lot of money. 15 bucks. You know, she's my charity case. But that's a long-term thing. If you just want to ride over to there, you want me to drop you off, pick you up in 4 hours.
How
50
many
bucks.
can you take?
I can comfortably take 3 at a time in my car.
3.
I drive a cab. I drive a old police car. It's pretty fun.
How much notice do you need?
More is better for me. More notice is better for me.
No, more.
The longer in
More.
advance, the more likely.
The more time you can give him, the better.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
This is my brain. I put everything on here. This is my phone. So everything is on my scheduler. So you can call me. I'm out driving around. This is my schedule. Let me check my schedule. Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Do you have a card?
Yes, I do.
So you're saying then, if you could take 3 of us out, and it was $15, it would be $5 each? Or would you charge more for more people?
You know, it's not that far of a ride.
I mean, if you take a cab somewhere, you know, usually you got
Share
to
the cab.
share it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that.
Okay.
You know, it depends on where I'm going and who I'm working with. The people over at Canterbury, have you ever heard of Canterbury? The trick with Canterbury is if you got 2, 3, 4, 500,000, you're in perfect health and you want to live there for forever, you plop down $500,000 and they'll take you where you want to go if it's before 3:30 in the afternoon. That's expensive. When I deal with people from Canterbury, they've got more money than the people that live at Brighton. so I charge more. They have doctors that are their daughters and stuff. So with this type of a property, I realize what I'm working with, and you're close. It's not that demanding. Yeah, I'll work with that.
How late?
I was bringing Frank back at 7:15. I like to stay up.
You do outings to Shays and things like that, don't you, for groups?
Oh yeah, if you want to do that, just talk to me.
Shopping, movies, theater.
This is a lady that's a friend of mine. She has some friends over at Amberley that I've been working with. Lindy is a friend of mine. That's a daughter whose mom is over at Amberley. She said, I got an award. I'm president of this club. We're having a party for my presidential inauguration. Would you pick up my mom at 6 and bring her to the party and hang out with her and watch her so she doesn't drink too much, and she's got these tall heels, she's tipping around and make sure she doesn't fall down, and at the end of the party, bring her home and make sure she gets in her apartment and doesn't fall over. No problem, Lindy. I got you covered. So she's a lawyer. She bills $3.75 an hour. I'll probably charge Lindy more than I would charge you. And that's okay. She doesn't mind that. But who does that? You can't call a cab guy up and say, bring my mom to the midday club in the Liberty building and hang out for 3 hours and watch her drink scotch and bring her home. But I'll do that. And I don't bill what Lindy bills.
So in other words, your rates aren't the same for everybody.
Right. On people that don't have as much, I don't charge as much. We call that sliding scale.
What are your rates, like if you wanted to go to a doctor or something?
A supervised doctor visit would be more, like when I took the lady to have her mom's, she had to get 4 teeth pulled out the bottom, she had to have a mold made, she had a first fitting and a second fitting. So that was 4. Go out from Amherst to Southgate Plaza, hang out with mom, bring her back. That was an hour. Her daughter was a doctor or something, teacher. So that was $30. That's farther. That's more waiting involved. Just going to Wegmans, you can practically see Wegmans from here. So that's not going to be nearly as much.
You don't have a regular
I've already
rate
used
schedule?
the senior one from Wegmans, and it's $5 going and $5 coming back, so that isn't bad.
If I were to do $15 for a carload, drop you off, come back in 2 hours. This is my brain cell phone, but I've got a little track phone cell phone too. And when people go to the movies, or if you wanted to go to Wegmans, I would say, here, just take this phone. When you're ready, hit the green button 2 times, 10 minutes before you want me there, and you'll call me up and say, we're ready to go in 10 minutes. And then give me the phone back when you're done. So I do that. That's one of my things.
Well, I mean, that's what they charge for that, but then they charge 10 and 10 to cross the border. And if you gotta go to doctors that are on the other side, that's a lot of money, I think.
If you were to go to SJ and back, that's probably maybe 15 minutes there and 15 minutes back. So that might be a $25 round trip. If you want me to sit in, if it was a supervised doctor visit, that would be more. Maybe I would charge somebody whose mom is, or whose daughter's a lawyer, it would be a $60 trip. But if you just want me to bring you over, call me when you're ready to come back. A place like this, it's not that far. I'm thinking like 25, something like that. And then you can talk to me. If you say, oh, that's not nearly enough, I want to pay you more, I'll humbly acquiesce. And if you say, well, can you do it for 10? Because that's all I got, but I'll pass out your card and I'll make sure that Leo gets his regular trips with you. Then I consider that to be like, you're my advertising wing. And sometimes I'll just say, okay, you don't have enough money, so you gotta pass out 10 brochures to some of the people and say I'm the greatest guy, especially your rich friends.
How about your walkers? I mean, how do you do it that way? If you drop them off, they shop, right? Where do you put, do you have to bring your walker in where you are, or do you keep it until you come back for?
I've got this big Tony Soprano trunk. All my friends say, oh, the guy can put 5 bodies in there. I can put number of walkers who out in there. I could put a
See,
wheelchair in the back.
I've gone, since May 2nd, I have had to have all kinds of services, so I know exactly. In fact, when you call the cab company, half the people, the men that pick you up, they can't even talk English.
Yeah,
They don't
I know.
understand me and I don't understand them.
And just by looking at them, I'm not sure if they can pass a drug test. Some of the hair on these guys looks pretty scary. So, yeah, no. I treat people like they're my mom. Everybody thinks that I'm taking my mom all over town. And I get more people say, oh, you're such a nice boy. It's like, it's my job. I do this with everybody's mom. Wouldn't you want that the way it is with your mom? You wouldn't want some guy, yeah, get it. Oh, no, that's not cutting it for me. Okay, that's great.
That's it?
Thank you.
Thank you.